Where do you want to start today? You said you had something.
I do.
I don't have a Monster Energy drink to open, so why don't you open for us?
So this is our first session of 2026. So
Well, Robert was here last week. You didn't get here. We're
doesn't
gonna
count.
We're gonna do. Maybe next week. Maybe next week
Okay.
all of us will be here.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And it won't be. I think it'll be great. But kick us off.
So I thought, how do we want to start 2026? And we've done something before where we've talked about, what 3 words would be the topic for the podcast. So I'm thinking, what are your 3 words? And I'll start us off so you get some thinking time. But what are your 3 words for 2026? And I was thinking about this on the drive up here, trying to stay sane as people drive me crazy in the traffic. But my 3 words, I think my first one is purpose. One of the challenges I have at the moment is it's very easy to be reactive to situations. And I get thrown into a lot of situations where there's problems, you problem solve, you get things fixed, you get them set up and running, but you're quite reactive. So I think purpose is a key driver for me in 26 to set a target that we're going for, something worth going for, and then stay true to the path to get there. So not just reactive, not just facing problems week on week, but actually have a goal in mind. Do you want to pick that one? Or go on to the second?
No, I wanted you to go through everything first. I was going to ask questions, but you sort of covered that at the end. So let's do the 3. Let's do the 3.
All right. So my second one then is, I think it's about being accountable. So it was going to be about being brave, because I think there's no point having a purpose, a target, if it's not a very interesting one. So I think you've got to be brave. But actually, brave's quite easy if you're not accountable for the decisions you make and the results you make along the way. So I want to be accountable. And I say this very mindful of the fact I've just come out of a couple of difficult conversations this week where it doesn't happen very often, but we screwed up. And we screwed up, and it's on us. And I can't do anything to make excuses about it. I have to just lift my chin and say, you know what? It's on us. We're sorry. And we're going to take actions to make it right.
Easiest 2 words in English that people just don't say enough is I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it happens.
And it's so easy to do, and people just have too much ego tied up. Okay, so purpose, accountability.
And my third one is, it was going to be kind, but I think kind is sort of a given one because I can be a pushy pain when I want to be. But I think I want to move beyond kind and be generous, because generous is a bit more active and generous is a bit more, so we say driven, then kind is still quite passive. Kind is like, I'll sit there and I'll react in the right way, but generous means you actively do something. So I think those are my 3 words of 2026: purpose, accountable, and generous.
I'm not going to respond with mine because I did think about it, but I'm going to ask, what made you come up with this? Because it sounds like there was something, everybody has their New Year's resolutions and blah, 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 right? What made you think about, I need to purposefully shift how I'm looking at the year?
It's interesting because I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions. I made a point.
Me either.
I made a point over Christmas of not dropping my workout. I was a bit lax on diet, but that was by decision because I wanted to have a good Christmas meal and enjoy myself with friends and family. But I did not drop a single workout over the time. I'm really happy with that. So it wasn't like January 1st, right? New year, new me. I'm going to get back into it. So I'm like, no, that never stopped. I'm like that. I'm very driven this year to hit certain targets, but it's because I'm excited about them, because I'm really fired up about. And I'm really talking about gym stuff now rather than anything else, but I'm really fired up about workouts. I'm really fired up about health targets. And I think I've got a few good foundations in place that I can build on. So I wouldn't say it's a new resolution for that, but I wanted to make sure that when you've been heads down for a few months, problem solving and fixing issues, and when it has been literally battle after battle every day, it's very easy to lose long-term focus or long-term target. And I wanted to just drag myself back to that and make a point of, it wasn't January 1st, it was really sort of this week that I'm starting to say, okay, I've just taken a knock, but what are you going to do about it? What are you actually going to do you won't avoid knocks coming because they always come, but what are you going to do to make sure that the target, the trajectory is going where you want it to be?
I'm going to go into coaching mode now with you.
Good.
So you have
get this for free.
Purpose. Yeah. You have purpose, bravery, accountability. Sorry, accountability and generous.
Yeah,
accountability, generous. Thank you. Those are very. I don't want to call them weasel words, but they are words that I believe are meaningless without you telling me what they mean.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'd like to understand either what does that mean to you, like what will be shifted by the end of the year in the way that you're thinking about this. Or what are you doing on a monthly, weekly, daily basis in order to help achieve this. So what does purpose look like at the end of 2026?
Yeah.
And then how are you bringing that into your life on a habitual or routine basis?
Yeah, okay. And I think there's two layers to this. And it's partly because I wear a few hats, as we all do in our sort of day-to-day lives, particularly at work. I have quite a hands-on role at the moment where I'm deeply engaged with some clients and helping to get their deliveries, their programs to a good place. But then I have a regional leadership role where I've got an objective to achieve there. So I've got two different lenses that I look at this through. And what's actually prompted is more the sort of hands-on up against the coalface stuff, which I love, and it keeps us sane, it keeps us useful. But that's actually prompted the other one, because I think about it, well, so what are you going to do in this situation? And I've been thinking about that, and we've already made some strides towards where I want to get to, sowed the seeds, made a few jolting decisions and set things in motion there. But it's also prompted, so, okay, what are you going to do on the other side? Because you can't just focus on one. That's not what you're here to do. So I've also taken a couple of decisions last week to do similar on the regional leadership role. And that is got me really fired up, to be honest. I've got enough of a mid-term vision in place that I can see how it plays out. I need to get the longer term a bit better defined, but the short term will come from the mid-term, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, so again, you've now told me about roles. You've told me about sort of a little lightness on what's happening with them, and especially you've mentioned being reactive a lot. If I go for my objective statements, you've mentioned that you tend to be very reactive on things. I would ask then, what do you think the biggest challenge for you is when you looked at those two roles, where you look at where you spend your time, and when you think about those three words? What's the biggest challenge or hurdle that you think you're going to have in, let's say, the first 3 months?
Oh, I don't want to answer that because then I look like an asshole. Honestly, the biggest challenge is the generous one.
Say it. Okay.
Yeah.
We can pick apart that one.
Because I can be quite focused on what I want to get done, and I can see the goal. And sometimes it's very easy to bulldoze through things to get to a goal without thinking about the fact you actually need to bring a team with you on the journey. And it's very easy when you've built a team because you've cherry-picked those people and you put them in place to do certain roles, and they know what particular flavor of asshole you are. So they kind of accept that and come with you. But when you're working with a team, as I am at the moment, that's quite broad, that hasn't got long history of working with you, they haven't got quite as much motivation as putting up with your nonsense. So you have to actively make an effort to both bring them with you, but to do it for the right reasons, not just because you want them to follow your lead, but actually because you want us to achieve together.
Now, would you say your job, ultimately, if you're running a region, you will have the accountability of that, but would you say your job is to make the decision? I'm already giving you the answer here in a way. I wouldn't normally ask this in this way. Is your job more to, as you said, you were like, I'll bulldoze things, and I'm not going to go through everything because I know you, have known you long enough, and it is I can see where we need to go, and I just need to get there, right? I'm the person accountable, versus I feel like what you have said is there's a team that I need to figure out how to empower and enable in order to have them achieve those results that I want, because doing it myself is going to provide a bottleneck.
I'll be there on my own.
Right? Yeah. Well, not only will you be there on your own, you cannot scale like that. You can only do that for so many projects.
Exactly.
And so it sounds like the shift that you want with whether that's reactive or purpose or generosity is that it's how you bring that team along with you, how you set them up, how you coach and mentor them so that they can sort of see where you're going, and they bulldoze for you.
And they add into it as well, because I'm never a believer that I have all the answers all the time. I have I'm blessed with the ability to make decisions quite quickly, and they're usually pretty good decisions. And I'm a very strong believer that any decision is better than no decision. But they're not always right. And I listen more than some people appreciate sometimes. You need that counsel around you. You need that team who add different things that you don't bring to the table to be successful.
You said, so I'm going to go off on a bit of a different tangent. You just said something I loved, and I feel like most people don't do it. Okay, so now we're talking about 2026. We're talking about whether you want to or not, some sort of a reset or a resolution or just something, because I think for you and I agree. I tend not to think in years. So then it becomes, well, why is January your reset? That's because I have 2 weeks off where I can actually think deeply. about something and I don't have that at other parts of the year and everybody else has off too. So I actually have that time to focus on what do I want to do. That's why I use it as a reset time. That idea of doing something on the car ride over here, I was thinking, okay, what do we want to talk about? And top of mind for me since I got back has been the Sapient transition to products and services.
Yeah.
I'm now in charge of the design organization for our products, and I'm thinking, what do I need to do for that? Internally in Sapient, you hear a lot of people like, our products suck. Our products aren't good enough. Our products don't do this. Cursor's better. Lovable's better, right? And there's different reasons why some of them appear better. We have different reasons why we stand out. And, I could go through like enterprise deployability, enterprise context graph, like et cetera, right? Like not connected to lock-in with one of the hyperscalers. Great, perfect. But if I'm an individual designer or an individual engineer and I'm using Cursor or Lovable or V0, I get why people are like, I like these products better. Number one, people who built those have been building products for a long time in general. Number two, they're not initially an enterprise company. Like Cursor does have enterprise. I can't remember V0. But you get a lot of complaints when you are trying to change the direction of a ship. And it is very easy to complain and it is very difficult to create. And what you said, doing anything is better than doing nothing.
Yeah, sure.
And there was a book that I read like a while ago. I love Neil Stephenson. He's the author who wrote Snow Crash, coined the term metaverse back in I think it was 93 or something stupid. And the book was Termination Shock.
Yeah, I don't think I've read that one. Yeah, okay.
I'm not a huge fan of the book, all right? But it gets all the way to the end of the book. And this won't spoil anything, I don't think. But it comes down to where, picture a rich billionaire like Elon Musk is under attack from some people. They're in this underground bunker type of thing. And someone's talking to him and saying like, are you upset with the people who are attacking you? He's like, no, because I would rather have somebody fight for something than do nothing. And it doesn't matter if they're against me, at least they are trying to move us forward in a way that they believe in. And I just thought that was sapient. I'm like, you're complaining that we are trying something when if we don't, we are going to die.
Yeah, stagnate and die.
And what I just heard from you, and then I'll turn it back from you, it's like, I know I will not progress in my career unless I make changes. Maybe these aren't the right changes. Maybe I'm going to course correct them throughout the year, but I at least know in order to get to some sort of personal goal, career goal, whatever that is, I need to make changes. And I feel like so many people, especially when they get older, I don't want to say they give up on it, but they're so sort of formed in thought and habit and desire that building new habits is nearly damn impossible, and people get stuck so easily.
You see it so much as well. I think that for me truly is the meaning behind purpose, because for me, it's not so much, I'm getting a little bit older now, so it's not so much about growth in my career for me. It's more about I choose to spend far too many hours of my day doing this. What am I going to see as a result for that? So I want to make those achievements. I want to make them for my team, for my clients, for my office, for my region, for my company. I want to have things I can look back on and say, there's my stakes in the ground. That's what we did. And that one went badly wrong, but we learned from it. And because of that, we went to this step. And to have a progression there, a meaningful output, an objective that we achieve and things that we learn, that for me is the purpose of why you do anything.
You said something that was interesting. This is going to be a whole counseling session between you and I. Nothing about tech. You said basically I want to see the impact. Yeah. And I have the same thing. One of the things I love with working at Sapient, it's a very large company, but I'm in a position where I can actually see the impact I have on that company. Yeah. And look, for better or for worse, that for me is an ego kick. I love that. And I can say what I want and I can pass off and be like, yeah, I love my career and I love all these things and I love to go to work. But that sort of dopamine hit of every month, maybe I helped win a program that changed the course or help us, get better work in. That's a great sort of ego feeder. And I don't know how you feel about that. Is that the same reason that you're like, I want to have an impact for this? Like you want to be remembered for something, or is that like a personal thing?
It's more a personal thing, if I'm honest. I mean, I've since joining Emphasis, I think it's been a very different level of scale. I mean, moving to a company which is like 400,000 people is massive, and you are keen to be a good moving cog within a big machine, but you also want to move the needle as well. And I do believe that's possible. I think one of the things we're going through at the moment is we're also going through a period of transformation as we start to sort of reap the rewards of some of the seeds that we put in place. There's a very big AI drive fundamentally around how we operate at the moment, because I think any consultancy that doesn't transform how it's delivering value at the moment, to not just change how they're doing things, but change how the people are engaging with that direction, I think they're doomed. And I think we've made some very good strides there. I'm starting to see the results from it. I'm starting to see evolutionary change within the business, which makes me very excited by the region. One of my big go-to-market propositions for the region is about a fundamentally AI-based model to deliver, and I'm really excited by that. But I think from my side, it's really about, like I say, it's a personal thing about I choose to spend my time doing this. How do I look back in 10 years and justify myself? That's how I gave up. That's what I gave up that portion of my life for. So,
and I'm having the same sort of inner conversations as well. I think if I look at my life since I've joined Sapient or in Dubai, I don't have a social life. I have very few local friends. I still have friends back in Amsterdam and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, I've really thrown myself into my career. And I am very lucky that I really do love what I do, right? I get to solve these problems.
It's very hard if you don't. Very hard.
A lot of people don't, though, I find. Like one of the things that has always driven me nuts is if I come in on Monday and people are like, oh, Monday. And I will lose it on people. And I've gone like, if you spend 70% of your life waiting for 30% that we call the weekend, like there's something wrong. Like, no, I want you to come in on Monday excited to work. Okay, some days are going to suck. Sometimes you have difficulties. Sometimes you have a difficult team, a difficult client. In the bigger picture, I cannot imagine showing up to work and just hating what I do or even disliking it. On days, yeah, but like...
Do you know what? You reminded me. I used to get really annoyed with people saying, Happy Friday, because it's the weekend.
Yeah.
So I started saying Happy Monday, Happy Tuesday a few years ago, and it became a habit. And now just saying we're in a meeting, Happy Tuesday, Happy Wednesday. But I believe it. I'm like, you take what you want from the day.
Yeah. Like one of the things I love about weekends is I actually will get 2, 3, 4 hours to do something that is uninterrupted. And sometimes that's related to the job. Sometimes it's related to things like this and the podcast. But you actually get thinking time. So I do those things on my own anyway. I want to go back to your
we're going to get to yours as well. Don't think you escape.
Okay. I'll do mine. I'll do mine quickly. But going back to yours, if I had to ask, I'm going to ask you the same question again, because I don't think you answered it, at least to my liking. What do you think is going to be the toughest part for you? So you talked about that sort of shift in bulldozing, bringing along people. But what are you going to do to change in order to get to where you want to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I may not have the answer for it, is the interesting thing. So,
one of the cool things is, hey, coaching session live.
Yeah, that's great. Honestly, I think it's being mindful of the decisions you're making and the impact of others. So it just means pausing now and again. And it actually means listening. One of the things I've learned over the years is that I'm not the best listener at times. I have to force myself to. And there are techniques you can go through, and one of which is taking notes. By taking notes, first of all, it makes your brain remember things. So I have stacks of pads that I write notes on while I listen on calls, because I may not ever look at those notes again, but just the act of writing things down makes it sink into your brain. So I'm a big believer in sort of the mechanical connection of handwriting to memory. So that's part of the...
I'm going to stop you.
No, okay.
You're telling me something you already do.
Yeah.
What's something you're going to change in order to...
And I'm thinking, like I said, I might not have the answer.
And that's okay if you don't.
Yeah, let me think about that.
Okay. I'll go through mine. And I do the same thing. So at the end of every year, and I've done this for a decade now, and this is one of the things that I actually do when I go to Malaysia. I used to go to the same cafe until they remodeled it, and then my seat went away. So now I go to a new cafe. And for anyone listening from KL, I go to KLCC and I go to either Kenny Hills or I go to the old 8 ounce for the one person who might be in KL listening.
I was hoping for a story where you bought that seat from the coffee shop and took it with you. Yeah.
I do try to ask for mugs and stuff like that if they're branded. I don't have 3 words. I do have a set of goals.
All right. Cool.
But if I had to distill that down to 3 words, training, health, career. If I wanted to add a 4th, it might be knowledge. But I'll tell you how I break each one of those down. So every year I make several goals for myself. Consistently, goals for the last 10 years have been visit 2 new countries.
Okay, nice.
Read, or in my case, listen to 50 or more audiobooks. Wow. Last year I got to, I think, 80 or 81.
Yeah, nice.
Generally keep myself in good health. However, last year I really ramped that up. And this year, my health and my training have gone into training for MMA. Yeah. So every day I'm in Dubai, I do either Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu or both. And today I did both.
I'm actually in awe of how much you're training at the moment.
And I do it for no particular reason, just to be a better person. So for me, I set goals by the time I'm 50. And one of those was to have sort of a certain level of like, knowledge of health and wellness. And so part of it is the peptide stuff that we talk about. It. Part of it is my gym routine. Part of it is my training. Part of it's my eating. But I break that down into what I'm doing sort of on a weekly and daily basis. And so for this year, the changes that I'm making is doing that training, right? Career-wise, what you mentioned, listening. I have a picture on my computer, and I don't look at this every day, but I should, of a journal. I think it's like the High Performance Coaching Journal or something. And it does ask you things like, what's something that's going to trip you up today? Yeah. And on the, at the end of the day, what's something that you could have done better today? Mm-hmm. I do have a gratitude journal. I generally tend not to like that very much, but every once in a while I do look at it and I think to myself, like when I have a hard day with a client and there are days I'll be like, I just want to quit, right? Like, screw this, I'm done, right? Yeah, and everybody has that. But then looking at that and just thinking, okay, what I have, the fact that like we just had Christmas come and go. I tell everybody, I don't want any gifts. I don't need anything. If I want anything, I can buy it. I literally I have everything that I need, and I really have everything that I want. Right? Like, I mean, sure. I got
gym attachments. Lap pull down attachments was one of my best gifts.
Like, sure. Do I want a new Louis Vuitton bag? Yeah, sure. But like, So now it's become, how am I making myself? And this sounds so cheesy, and I know it, but I'm thinking to myself, like, how do I make myself a better person and a better man? And part of that is the training. Part of that is the knowledge, like the reading. I read fiction, nonfiction. I read memoirs. I read history. And my thing is, I want to be able, especially as I've gotten older, right? You're younger, you go out to parties. Like, now that I've gotten older, I love what we do here, having a good conversation.
Yeah. It makes you think.
It does. And that is, like, these podcasts we do and these types of conversations are the most enjoyable thing that I think I have within the week. Yeah, for sure. I might say training, but no, when I have like a dude who's, 30 kilo heavier than me squashing me, no, that's not fun, but you're like, I'm working towards something. Yeah. But these conversations where you get to explore something, whether it's about yourself, whether it's about technology, whether it's about the industry, like that to me, keeping my brain pliable and flexible, having new ideas. Like I'm really excited when we get you, me, and Robert, because one of the things I love about him is every conversation, like him make me think of something different. And it's not that I'll change my opinion right away, but it's that I'll think about that afterwards. And over time, I may get a book on it. I may shift something. So like, yeah, those are my goals. I'm happy. I have more things that I have on my goal list, and I sort of have what I do every day. Like you said, listening, coaching is actually one of them. I wanted to bring on 2 people to coach this year because it's what I want to do longer term. Like we're in retirement in 20 years, but if I want to do something at an excellent level in 20 years, let's start now, right? And I have this posted on my computer, and again, cheesy lines, but I love these things, these little platitudes. That it was something like self-discipline will never create a worse tomorrow. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And so when I want to go out and, like I don't drink anymore in Dubai, but God, there's some days I want to, but I'm like, no, I want to wake up. I want to train tomorrow. I want to do these things.
There's a great, I'm trying to think of the guy's name who plays Reacher in the TV series. Adam Richardson?
Oh, buff dude. Yeah. I don't know his name, but I know who he is.
There's a great quote by him I love, which is basically your physical health, your physical condition is the best billboard for your mental health, your mental discipline. Because if you've got the discipline to go to the gym and focus over a long term on your own health, then it says something about you. And I take that as someone who has been very unfit for a very long time. Very big portions of my life I've been unfit. And it's relatively the last 3 years that I've really put focus on it. And that quote always comes back to me. Say, if you put that effort into one area of your life, it bleeds into other areas of life. And I see that discipline in other areas that I engage with.
I want to fully agree. Where I struggle with this is from working at like Microsoft and working at Google, or sorry, I didn't work at Google, had friends there. I've been around Meta a bunch. I worked with them on contract. You see people who come in all shapes and sizes, and they don't always have the best, let's say, physical health type of situations.
I know some brilliant developers who are massively overweight and unfit.
And that's the thing. I'm like, here's brilliant people, but they don't necessarily take care of their health. But I would love to work with them, and I feel like they have discipline at the things that they love, and they have just chosen not to love that particular thing. So I do want to say that because it's the path that I'm on. It's the path of I know my training and my health and my eating. It's the 1 marshmallow, 2 marshmallows, right? Like, do you know this thing? It's like, okay, it was a study, like a famous old study where you put something like 1 marshmallow in front of a kid and you say, don't eat it. And then it was like, the kid eats it, but if the experimenter comes back in 10 minutes and it's still there, they get 2 marshmallows. Yeah, okay. So it's like, can you delay gratification? Yeah, okay. And if you can probably be better in terms of a lot of discipline in your life.
Yeah, there's some
and that's going to translate a lot. And so I do believe there is something to that. And I don't know how to square that away with, there's been a lot of amazing people I've worked with who don't have that level of health discipline, but they have it in terms of like, they got a PhD, which means they have some really good discipline, but just not in the way that I see discipline.
But let me ask you, do you think they would be more effective if they had that discipline as well as that brilliance, that laser focus, which often these people tend to have, is that they're very, very good at focusing and digging into something in a very deep level and proceeding with it. But I know I speak for myself, I find I can flip from one thing to another when I do that. And what's really helped me over the last few years is that consistency, that staying power, that stubbornness to stay with something and to structure it properly. I wonder how much better they'd be with that level as well.
I want to say
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if it's
I want to say yes, but I feel like that is my own bias because of how I handle my life. But I'll say, I don't think I have the ability to get a PhD. Like, okay, yes, I do. Do I want to prioritize that and that level of focus that for 3, 5, 7, 10 years, I am studying a topic in order to create a new level of knowledge? I'm not sure, because I'm somebody who every few years likes to engage in something different, whether that is my personal goals like training, or whether it is the country I live in or the company I work for.
Is that a virtue of the fact that the type of company you work for, particularly a consultancy at the moment, and I've often wondered about me as well, is that I tend to shift focus quite regularly because of the nature of the business we're in. And does that train habits in your brain? Because I've done this for 30 years this year, which is terrifying. But.
So, funny part, I would much rather work in-house on a product.
Okay.
100%. Because I believe there is something that I miss not thinking deeply about, something like really, really deeply about a feature, a function, a business. So the question is, Joe, why do you work in consulting if you would rather work in-house? It is because on a personal level, I like to explore. And that desire to explore and engage in new things wins out over my desire to think deeply.
But I'd argue it also makes your ability to think deeply better because you have this cross-pollination from different inputs that you wouldn't get if you were just in one area.
I'd like to think that. However, and this...
That's what I tell myself.
This could be a byproduct of being in Dubai in the Middle East, which tends to have super rapid timelines and shifting. I feel like my ability to think deeply is not as strong as it was 5 or 6 years ago. However, my ability to quickly context shift has ramped up, maybe not exponentially, linearly or logarithmically.
But I think we have to be careful with that because I see what you're saying, and I think we've got a big sort of sliding scale on this, where on one end you've got the PhD focus, where you pick a topic and you dig into that and you deeply dive into it for, like you say, 5-7 years. On the other hand, we've got our sort of TikTok watching, dopamine fueled craze of doom scrolling, where you flick from one thing to another. If seconds are spent on something, you're lucky. I think there is a middle ground, and I think the place in the middle where you do focus for enough time to have a meaningful impact and to get into and truly understand something and move the needle on it, I think there's value in that. It's a case of where exactly on that scale are you? And towards the left-hand side, you're more focused on an in-house product, and towards the right-hand side, you're more focused on an immediate problem solving. And the shorter term, it means it's probably project by project. Where we tend to sit across a number of things, tend to be quite bigger programs, longer running. They can be 12 months, 18 months, some of them. So you get, I think, that chance to make an impact. But I do see that, could I spend 7 years focused on something like that versus the sort of 18 months, 2 year mark, which I've been used to for a very long time? I'm not sure. And I think you have to, for me, to make it work, I find the goals. And those goals, you set the time period for those goals, and that's how you control the focus shift.
I have found in my thinking of goals per year that as I want to work deeply on something, I do believe that there is somewhat of a time window for me to be more flexible in my ability to adapt to new cities or new situations. And so let me move around now and let me do things now, because when I'm 65, maybe I could go back to school then for a master's and a PhD.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I would see people I went to Carnegie Mellon, and so you'd have a lot of people coming in their 40s to do a master's, and you're 17, 18 at that point. And I'd be like, why would anybody want to come back and study? And now I'm like, I want to go back and study.
Yeah, I do see that.
It's funny. I again, sort of the differences in platitudes and sort of ways that people shift. And I can't remember the quote, but there's just a great one that it's like how so many people get judgmental, but then how they shift in their lives. And then people sort of forget to look backwards and think where they were, where they've come, what they've changed, how their thinking has changed. And so in that moment, they're judgmental over a certain thing, not recognizing how much they've changed and even how much their perspectives have changed.
Sure.
And I think you said at the beginning of this, when you were going through your words, like slow, you didn't use these exact words, but it was something like slow down, listen, pause. I think you used the word calm.
It's unusual for me.
It is. But I think both of us would benefit from speaking less, saying to people who do a podcast, but at work, speaking less. And I know I will say this for myself. I had this conversation with one of my teams because I tend to be like a problem-solving machine in a way. And so when things get escalated to me or they come to me, my instant reaction is like, I have to solve this. And what I have found is I'm not more often than not, but I think I would benefit from giving things a little bit more space and time, because I have found my desire to solve things have sometimes encroached or stepped on my team's toes in a way that number one, doesn't allow them to learn or benefit from that. Number two, could be a different decision from them and I'm overriding them accidentally. Number three, sometimes I'm just not clear on why I make decisions. None of these things are good, and they're all driven out of this, number one, like ego, right? Like I'm the boss, so I need to solve it, right?
That's what you're there to do. It's like you come to me because you need help, therefore I'm going to help you.
Yes. And my job is to make sure that the organization is running, but it's not always to solve things, right? It's that, like in that coaching thing, everybody comes to me with, the box full of problems and they want to hand them off, but I need to give it back to them. And a lot of times
there's a great.
All right, go for it. Sorry, I monologue so much.
No, but it's just a segue that won't come back. I used to have a leadership coach a few years ago now. He's probably retired now, and I've forgotten his name, which is terrible. But he used to run a company called 42, and there was a great guide that he would say that as a coach, as a leader, the best thing you can do when someone comes to you with a problem is to turn it back to them and say, "What do you suggest? What do you think needs to happen here?
Yeah.
You tell me what you think the answer is. I might argue with you, but you start first by what do you think the answer is, and listen." So.
Yep. And I do that to a lot of people who are like, what would you do in this case? And they'll say, I don't know. And all I can think to myself is like, really? You have no ideas. And these are people who will come to me and say like, I need to be promoted.
Yeah.
Right. And that boggles my mind, that dichotomy of I need to be promoted. And then they come to me with a problem that they should be able to solve at the next level. And then I'll ask them, well, I don't know. And I'll ask them maybe 3 times, be like, I really don't know. And then finally I'm like, okay, I do have limited time here. I'm not going to sit around. But at that point, that person in my mind is like not ready for promotion.
They've just defined where they sit. Is the problem.
Yeah. You're like, you're at level. Perfect. Yeah. Cool. But
I don't know if you're the same, but I'm more looking for those team members who you hire them and they're constantly pushing the envelope. Like, I see you're ready. I see you could do more. I kind of need you to play that role at that level. That's what I hired you to do. And you're great, but I need this.
More great platitudes. If you are looking to advance your career, the expectations that are on you now are the lowest they will ever be.
Yeah.
Right. And there are so many things like me running an organization that I have to think about. If you, as one of my direct reports, are great at removing problems from me, you are my hero. Yeah. It is not just solving your problems; it is removing my problems.
Yeah, I don't care about your problems. Yeah, you fix my problems.
When I talk to my manager, who's like, I don't even know how she does it. She's our global chief experience officer. One of my questions every week is like, "What can I do for you?"
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes I do cause her problems because I'm not always wonderful, but I'm generally trying to like, what can I do to solve things? We are running right up on time. So you started this, you take us home. Tell us a little bit more about 2026 and we will wrap up.
I think, I mean, first of all, I'm really excited by 2026. I think we are seeing unparalleled change in the world of technology, which I'm sure we'll dig into a bit in future episodes. I'm really excited by where things are going around things like agentic design, which are starting to become less buzzwordy, more real. I'm starting to see real applications despite a lot of skepticism and despite a lot of problems around them. I'm excited to see the brains that people are bringing to the table to apply to these types of problems, both within my team, my company, but also bouncing ideas off people like you and others in the industry. I think that in itself makes 2026 and this time the most exciting time to be engaging with at this sort of nascent point where things are starting to explode and we have the chance to influence them. So I think my urge to anybody who is listening to this is go out and engage with it and see how you can move it a little bit or a lot, but have your fingers on it in some way or another and have an influence that you can look back and say, I was part of that journey.
We'll wrap it up there. Dunbar, see you next week.
See you next week.